Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. The books of Ezra and Nehemiah follow similar, yet at the same time, different problems among the returning people of Judah. In Ezra, the temple had to be rebuilt in Jerusalem, something that took 20 years to do due to delays, and then unlawful marriages had to be dealt with. In Nehemiah, another problem persisted, a lack of a wall in Jerusalem. It left the city unsecure, the temple unsecure, meaning that it was open to attack and general ridicule from the surrounding nations who did have fortified capital cities. Nehemiah, though, wasn't in Judea. He was in Susa and was part of the Persian king's court. How would he convince the king to let him go and assist his people? Let's read on to find out. If you have a Bible, then you can turn to Nehemiah chapter 2. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 10. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry, just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Nehemiah chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, that I took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had never been sad in his presence before. Therefore the king said to me, Why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This is nothing but sorrow of heart. So I became dreadfully afraid and said to the king, May the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire? Then the king said to me, What do you request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said to the king, If it pleases the king, and if it pleases your servant, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it. Then the king said to me, the queen also sitting beside him, How long will your journey be, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Furthermore, I said to the king, If it pleases the king, let letters be given to me for the governors of the region beyond the river, that they must permit me to pass through till I come to Judah. And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he must give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel, which pertains to the temple, for the city wall, and for the house that I will occupy. And the king granted them to me according to the good hand of my God upon me. Then I went to the governors in the region beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite official heard of it, they were deeply disturbed that a man had come to seek the well-being of the children of Israel. About 3.5 months have passed between chapters 1 and 2, for we are now in the month of Nisan, the time of the new year. Now, as we begin discussing this section, we need to recognize something. Being part of the king's court, even as cupbearer, was an honorable job and one of importance. So to leave such a job willingly was simply not done, for who wouldn't desire to bask in the light of the king? And yet that's what Nehemiah's asking Artaxerxes to do. And for that, as well as the condition of his people, Nehemiah is sad. Being sad in the king's presence was also a no-no, something that Nehemiah had never done before. Having such a disposition caught the attention of Artaxerxes, and so he asked Nehemiah what was wrong. Having committed, or about to commit, these two grave errors, it's no wonder that Nehemiah was afraid to answer, but quickly prayed to God before he did. He told Artaxerxes how could he be anything but sad when the city of his fathers, where they were buried, laid in waste with its gates burned with fire. Now, of course, Jerusalem wasn't a barren wasteland. It was inhabited. But because it had no walls, it was being afflicted by its neighbors, so the threat of it becoming a wasteland was very real. And so since the city was in that situation, Nehemiah considered that condition to be as if it was already a wasteland. Artaxerxes wanted to know what could be done about it, to which Nehemiah asked humbly that if the king would allow that Nehemiah be sent to Judah and Jerusalem so that he could rebuild it. This was a big ask of Nehemiah. For again, asking to leave the royal court was simply not done too often, but the king was willing to allow Nehemiah to go. This appointment wasn't permanent, for Artaxerxes wanted to know how long he would be gone, but suffice it to say, permission was granted to complete the job And from later on in the book, we'll find that Nehemiah extended his stay for 12 years. What would Nehemiah's position be? Well, from everything here, which will be confirmed later on in the book, Nehemiah is appointed governor of Judea with the authority to fortify Jerusalem and strengthen the province of Judea. To that end, Artaxerxes gave him letters that he could show the governors of the surrounding nations of Judea, attesting to this fact, as well as instructions to those suppliers of wood that they were to give Nehemiah timber that he may construct the gates, the city wall, and the governor's quarters that he would occupy. This letter would have been similar, though not exactly the same, to the letter written by Artaxerxes about 13 years earlier that accompanied Ezra when he came to the region. And so, with his permission granted, Nehemiah, along with some captains of the army and some horsemen, left Susa for Jerusalem. Nehemiah would have taken a similar route that Ezra took, only Ezra started in Babylon, while Nehemiah started further east in Susa. As he arrived in the region, Nehemiah delivered his letters to the governors. All seemingly went well until word came to Sanballat, the Horonite, and Tobiah the Ammonite. Sanballat is thought to have been the governor of Samaria, while Tobiah the Ammonite is thought to have possibly been the secretary to Sanballat, as we'll see later on in the book, that he seemed to write plenty of letters. We need to remember these two men, for they are going to have a major role as antagonists to Nehemiah, so do make note of their names. We'll find Nehemiah's arrival in Jerusalem, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 11 to 20, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.